This is Got the Fix Guide. Today we're dealing with the GE Space Saver Laundry Center that needs a new washer lid switch. So pretty easy procedure. We're going to unplug it first or turn off the breaker so there's no power. And then we're going to remove the front panel. We just have to take off two Phillips head screws in the bottom left and bottom right hand corner. And then the panel will slide down by about ½ an inch, and then we can remove it. Sometimes these screws are a little bit corroded, so just take your time. Just got both of those off, and then I'm just going to pull down, and I can remove the panel. And that's going to give me access to a couple of screws underneath that I can remove to be able to remove the top panel. So one in the upper left hand and one in the upper right hand corner. So there's the upper left hand, little Phillips head screw. There's the upper right. Spin that out. And then we can get the panel lifted up. And that'll give us access to the two screws that are holding in the lid switch. And I'm just going to use some needle nose pliers to pull off a couple of the electrical spade connectors that go into the micro switch on the side. So pull those off. And then I'll use my Phillips head screwdriver to remove the two screws that hold on the lid switch. And this modular connector that's on the other side of the lid switch is kind of hard to get off, so I'm going to use a standard head screwdriver just to give me some leverage to pry it off. I would just wedge it in between the body of it and the spade connectors. Kind of wiggle it back and forth. I can get this thing off. Sometimes you can just pull it off with your fingers too. So it's interesting, the old switch and the new switch, the micro switch clicks on the new one, on this black one, and on the old one, which is kind of a tan or white one, it just didn't click anymore. So that switch had just kind of given up. And that's why the machine wouldn't go to spin and actually wouldn't go to agitate either. Now I'm taking one of the screws, I'm going to feed it into the lid switch where the screws go in, and I'm going to use my screwdriver to just drive it in order to cut threads into the lid switch. If you don't do that, it's a little bit hard to get the screws in, so I like to do this before I install it. I'll put the screw in, I use my Phillips head screwdriver to really drive it in to cut threads, and I'll do it on the other side too. Then it's a lot easier to install.
And that's in
And
there.
I'm just putting it into position. So it's the first hole that we see closest to us is the one you want to use to put the screw in to hold on the lid switch. So you just kind of hand start it.
It holds it shut.
You've already cut the thread so it goes in a little bit easier. And then use your Phillips head screwdriver to drive it in. And then just look up in there and you'll see where the second one goes, where it lines up. So it's the fourth hole away from you. Drive that in, get those tight. That's nice. Making sure everything's lined up. So now we can put on our electrical connectors. On the main connector, and then there's two that go on the little micro switch. Just take your time here, make sure that you line them up and then get them pushed on as far as they'll go. Okay. And now we just got to secure the top panel. So we're going to put the Phillips head screw back into the upper right and upper left hand corner to hold down that top panel. That one in. Got it. Now we're sliding the front panel back into position, and I like to use a standard head screwdriver to push in underneath it so I have a little more leverage to push the panel back up into position. Once you kind of get it where you want it, you have to push it a little further, about 1/2 inch, to lock it into position. So I'm holding that up, and I'll use just my fingers to start off the Phillips head screw, and use the screwdriver to drive it in. And then on the left side, same thing. I'll use a screwdriver to just give me upward pressure to get it up as far as it'll go, and then put in the Phillips head screw. We'll drive that in. Okay, now we're just going to plug it in or turn on the breaker so we can test it. And got everything in position. Okay, I'll set the dial, pull it out, and it seems to be going into spin really well. So another one fixed.